Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance, by Angela Duckworth, shares her research and the work of others on the subject, and explains that what we eventually accomplish depends more on our passion and perseverance than on our innate talent. This work can help you find your own passion and develop it. This is a vital book for parents, teachers, and human beings in general. Make sure your school library has at least one copy for starters. Chapter 1. Showing Up. Angela starts with the story of her visits to West Point's summer session for incoming freshmen, known affectionately as Beast Barracks. Due to the high dropout rate of plebs, the question was, what qualities are the best predictors of who makes it and who goes home early? The only metric the Army had was the whole candidate score. It combined SAT-AC scores, class rank, an expert appraisal of leadership potential, and performance on objective measures of physical fitness. The problem was that this score had no predictive value when it came to surviving the first summer or the full 4-year program. What candidates needed, it seems, was a never-give-up attitude, which had nothing to do with ability. When Duckworth heard this, she decided to create an instrument to measure it. She then created the Grit Scale, which is included on page 55. She found that it was a good predictor for West Point. It also turned out to be a good predictor for other accomplishments, such as earning college degrees. She found that there was no relationship between IQ and grit. Chapter 2. Distracted by Talent. As a teacher early in her career, Duckworth discovered that talent for math was different from excelling in math. She also found that her weakest students sounded smart when talking about things that interested them. She found that Americans endorse hard work 5 times more than intelligence. However, teachers are more likely to lavish attention on students they think are talented. Another problem is associated with tests for talent, which, like tests for grit, are imperfect. Chapter 3. Effort Counts. Twice. After being chided by her advisor while working on her PhD in psychology, Duckworth came up with 2 equations. Talent, X, effort, skill, and skill, X, effort, achievement. Note that effort is included in both equations. While this theory does have a place for natural ability, it shows how effort is more important. This chapter gives examples of famous people who felt they succeeded thanks to their compulsive effort. In addition to talent and effort, there is also a place for opportunities and luck on the road to success. Encouraging parents with money are a prime example of opportunities. Chapter 4. How Gritty Are You? This chapter starts with Angela's Grit Scale. It contains 10 questions with a 5-point answer scale, from not at all like me to very much like me. 5 of the questions are related to passion, and 5 are related to perseverance. This allows you to get an overall score and 2 sub-scores. There is a chart that allows you to convert your scores into percentiles. Next, we deal with a hierarchy of goals. Angela uses a diagram with 3 levels. The top level is a single goal that represents your true passion, or what makes you happy, and what you want to do with your life. It can be thought of as your compass. This is the goal you want to hold on to for a very long time. Lower-level goals should be revised or replaced as one moves forward. As the Green Berets say, improvise, adapt, overcome. This chapter also contains stories and advice from Seattle Seahawks football coach Pete Carroll, New Yorker cartoonist Frank Medell, and billionaire investor Warren Buffett. It ends with a 1926 study of 301 exceptional historical figures and concludes that you need to be smart to a point. But that hard work is much more important. Chapter 5. Grit Grows. Like grit, every human trait is influenced by genes and experience. The amount for each seems to vary depending on the trait. Angela's research shows that on the average, grit increases with age. There are two explanations. The first is that older folks, like myself, grew up under different cultural conditions. We were less pampered and expected to stick with something we started. The second is that as one lives and gains experience and setbacks, one becomes more gritty. Duckworth believes that both contribute to the fact that grit increases with age. Mature paragons of grit have four psychological assets. They are: interest, passion, begins with enjoying what you do. Capacity to practice. You have to practice daily for a long time and focus on your weaknesses and resist complacency. Purpose. You need to believe that what you do matters beyond your own situation. Hope. It does not define the last stage of grit, but it's part of every stage. The other takeaway is that grit is not fixed. It is fluid and can be grown, which is the focus of the next part of this book. Chapter 6. Interest. The big idea is to figure out what you like doing the most and then try to do it full time. The most successful people usually do just that. People who like what they do will do it better. Students majoring in fields they like do better and are less likely to drop out. Unfortunately, most people, 2/3 according to Gallup 2014, are not engaged in their work. Most people who become engaged are not likely to find their big interest first, and when they do first see it, don't initially recognize it. After you discover your passion, you then have to develop and deepen it. Although a few find their passion early, it's rare that anyone does prior to middle school. This is when students should start exploring. The process of discovery is messy and inefficient, and luck doesn't hurt. Trial and error is a key feature, and it's okay to quit a path that isn't working out. Experiment, and don't force it. Interest development takes time and multiple encounters. Supporters in the guise of parents, teachers, coaches, and peers are vital. Feedback is also necessary. The early part of exploration should be playful. It's also vital that parents and teachers not force the issue. We are born with a drive to explore novelty. Chapter 7. Practice. It is important to be committed to the notion of continuous improvement. True experts are, even though they don't improve as fast as those not so far along. Here we encounter the concept of deliberate practice. This is where you focus on some aspect that you cannot do yet or don't do well. It may not be fun, but it is essential. You need to set a stretch goal and work towards it. Once you get there, set another stretch goal. Another vital aspect is getting negative feedback from people who know more about the subject than you do. Positive feedback is fine, but it's more important to find out what you aren't doing well. Deliberate practice is effortful and tiring. You might need a break after an hour and only be able to do 3 to 5 hours a day. Depending on the field, some find deliberate practice more enjoyable than others. A taste for hard work is necessary. The other concept here is flow. This is a state where you are performing at a very high level without great effort. Flow comes after a great deal of deliberate practice. Habits are essential no matter what they are. The idea is to set aside a time each day for effort towards your goal. Infants are constantly trying and failing. In essence, we should be more like babies. Teachers should also point out mistakes they make in order to set an example. Chapter 8. Purpose. In addition to interest, purpose is another source of passion. It is the intention to contribute to the well-being of others. Of the two, interest usually comes first. As the result of an extensive study, Duckworth found that higher scores on purpose correlate with higher scores on grit. Most gritty people see their ultimate aims deeply connected to the world beyond themselves. While it is possible to be a gritty villain, there are a lot more gritty heroes. Angela include a parable that highlights purpose. The first bricklayer says he is laying bricks. The second says he is building a church. The third says he building the house of God. The first has a job. The second has a career. The third has a calling. Which one are you? People who consider their work to be a calling are much grittier. People who keep both personal and pro-social interests in mind do better in the long run. The key point here is that it is never too late to develop a purpose. Chapter 9. Hope. When it comes to hope, grit rests on the expectation that our own efforts can improve our future. Gritty optimists assume that any setbacks are temporary and that anything can be made better with effort. They are also more likely to press on after failures and setbacks. Optimistic teachers are grittier and happier and tend to get their students to achieve more. It should be no surprise that grit and a growth mindset go together. With a growth mindset, you can give yourself optimistic pep talks that will help you persevere. Overcoming adversity, especially when young, bodes well for dealing with adversity later on. One problem for poor children is that they are more likely to face adversity over which they have no control and therefore can't overcome. Don't avoid asking for a helping hand. Angela warns that this 20-page chapter is not likely to change a bad mindset. Some readers may need a therapist. Chapter 10. Parenting for Grit. Here's some pretty direct advice for parents and mentors. While there is no research on parenting and grit, Duckworth is able to extrapolate and give parents some useful guidelines. The key ingredients are having high expectations and offering solid support. Parents should do more questioning and listening and less lecturing and criticizing. Parents should, however, lay down the law on matters of discipline. Striking a balance between being supportive and demanding seems to be the way to go. Research does show that students treated this way do better in school, suffer from less anxiety and depression, and are less likely to engage in delinquent behavior. All of this is true for other adults in children's lives like mentors and teachers. Chapter 11. The Playing Fields of Grit. Studies show that it is vital for children to engage in structured activities beyond the school day with an adult in charge. One study showed that students who participated in an extracurricular activity for 2 or more years were much more likely to graduate from college and enjoy success later in life. By sticking with something, students show that they can follow through on commitments. This is a much better predictor of success in college than grades and SATs. Grit seems to be transferable. Unfortunately, poor kids in poor schools have fewer opportunities for extracurricular activities, and they have parents less able to support them in activities that are not totally run by schools. Here, Duckworth introduces the hard thing rule. Here, every member of the family has to engage in one hard thing. This is a thing that requires daily deliberate practice. Members are allowed to quit their hard thing, but not until the season is over or the tuition runs out. It's important that people pick their own hard thing, and that students be required at some point to work on their hard thing for at least 2 years. Again, this shows how poor students are disadvantaged. As in elementary school, extracurricular hard things require parent support, planning,